My name is Raffaele Danna. I am a PhD candidate at the Faculty of History, Pembroke College. My research project is an interdisciplinary project between the history of science and socioeconomic history. And the main focus of my project is the history of the adoption and diffusion of Hindu-Arabic digits in Europe. And my main argument is that the story of the diffusion and adoption of Arabic digits, and so of the positional numeral system in Europe, is a story that is important under a socioeconomic point of view. And so that it is not a story that is just relevant for historians of science, but it is a story that is important also for economic and social historians as well. And the story starts somewhere around the beginning of the 13th century in the Mediterranean basin. It has the core of its development in central northern Italy, and then starting from the end of the 15th century, you have the diffusion of these things together with the introduction of the printing press throughout the European continent. And my story arrives, my cutting point will be probably around the 1600s in London. One of the reasons I am interested in this story is that it is a story that follows the opposite direction to the main story that is usually told. So like, whereas the usual narrative is that the north is the most developed part of the world and the south has always been trying to catch up, the story that I would like to try to tell is the story of the south being the center of development and the north slowly catching up. Whatever development may mean, of course. So it's a story that starts in India, that goes through the Middle East, that arrives in Maghreb, and from there it jumps into the south of Europe, when the south of Europe really was the core of European development, and then slowly transitions towards the north. And so London is kind of my ending point also because of that, because throughout the early modern and modern period, there's a very long literature telling you that, everybody was trying to catch up under a let's say, political economic point of view with England, whereas what I would like to try to raise is that there are courses and recourses, and therefore European history is very long, contradictory, strange, and that movements have gone back and forth across population, across tradition, across languages, and in the end, I think it's an interesting and beautiful story of a bottom-up, slow adoption, diffusion, transmission of not just mathematical concepts, but also practices, knowledge, implicit knowledge, and similar things. So the main sources that I'm looking at are practical arithmetic manuals. So small books, most of the time, teaching the reader how the positional numeral system works and how to do basic arithmetic calculations, but on top of that, how to employ these things as commercial tools. So how to employ this kind of mathematics within commercial activity. Going more into the details of what I'm actually doing in my research, I am I'm trying to get together a database where I collect information about when, where, in what language, and written by whom, and several other details, practical arithmetic manuals appear in Europe. I hope I will be able to end with like 1,500 of them or something like that. And for every one of them, I want to be able to unpack several information about it. And what I want to do at the end of it is plotting them, so like studying them through time and space. So I want to see on intertemporal maps of the European continent and of England, of course, when and where they appear, in order to see if there are like resistances, if there are not, what kind of linguistic boundaries you can have, because of course quite often they are very different from today's boundaries. And yeah, so like mapping, visualizing the story of this diffusion.